At 10 o'clock today. First, I'd like to recognize that, we're coming from a whole bunch of Nuu-chah-nulth Nation speaking nations on the coast here. I'm coming from you from the unceded territory of the Tla'aquehuit First Nation, and I'm very proud to be and doing that here. Quickly, committee members and staff present, boardroom via Zoom, we're going to be notice to attendees that the delegates is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the regional district website. Let's see here. Yes, we got everyone there. First and foremost, I just need a motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Director McEwen. Seconded by, I'm going to just call you out, Kirsten, because I can see you on my screen. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Great. Next is, I don't think there are any declarations, but there may be potential conflicts of interest. So I'll just look to the room again for that declaration. Seeing none, I'll move on. I'll move from the chair that the minutes of the West Coast Committee meeting held on July 2nd, 2025 be adopted. I'm a seconder. Thank you, Director McEwen. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Now we get to the fun part, and I can see Louise right up there. Hi, Louise. We have a delegation today. We have several. Louise Rogers, Tofino Farms, regarding reduced lease rates for food production at Long Beach Airport. And Louise, I'll just remind you that we have 10 minutes for this, but if it goes a little longer,
can I have my timer going?
I don't even know because I don't have a watch anywhere near, but I'll just give you a hand raise, and it's a simple resolution of committee to continue if need be. So welcome, and please go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Louise Rogers, owner and operator of Tofino Farms. I'm happy to be growing food out of unceded Tla'aquehuit territory up at the Long Beach Airport. I will now share you my PowerPoint to ask for an affordable lease for any local growers in that area. Give me a moment here. Share. Does that work for everybody? Yes. Okay. So at the lease rates and food security, just a quick outline of my presentation. It will be who we are, what we do, where we do it, the ACRD lease rates, ACRD and food security, and then our request. So we are located in that area. You see the photo. It's a beautiful, warm, sunny spot where we've been growing food since 2021 in Tla'aquehuit territory at Long Beach Airport. During the pandemic in 2020, my friend and I, so Diana Lynn, she has Long Beach Farms and I'm Tofino Farms. We presented to the ACRD board because we were concerned about food security and we wanted to grow food for all the local communities, aiming mostly for our TUG, that's our local veggie box program, as they sell to most communities on the coast. So when we presented to the board, we knew that we would be investing quite a bit of money and we needed at least 9 years, so 3 terms of 3-year leases to pay off the loan and kind of get our footing, because there's a lot to learn in farming. So we invested $45,000. That was in land prep, the 3 greenhouses, soil and compost, rainwater tanks because it's off grid, and the electric fence for animal wildlife. And the area is about 930 square meters. And in those last 3-4 years, we have learned a lot. The pros to that area, it is very sunny. It's central to all the communities. It's under the aircraft approach area, so nothing could ever be built there. That's very tall, of course, but greenhouses totally fit that bill. The cons, of course, it's unserviced, so we're doing a lot of hand watering, and because there's no electricity for our pumps, and we needed to purchase 3 big tanks to catch our copious amounts of rain in the winter. And then, of course, the 3-year lease, that was always a bit of insecurity. Why I'm here today is because last year our lease tripled. This totally set us on a different path. I was ready to hire part-timer and kind of expand the variety of produce to more nutrient-dense foods, not just greens, but the carrots and the beets and so on. The only thing with those is, of course, as a farmer, the income isn't as high for those, but we wanted to provide more nutrient-dense foods. You'll see there the list of our expenses from last year. And yeah, it's hard to give it a go. Any help we can get for farming is 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 uh, is good. I did dive into the Alberni Valley Agricultural Plan. Since 2011, they do have a plan for increasing food security. Fantastic 12 primary goals to achieve that vision. Of course, I definitely noted goal 7, which was improving productivity of the land and creating affordable land opportunities for new farmers. The ACRD has an opportunity right now to do just that. I do understand that the ACRD also has a budget and has budget constraints, but it also has such a fantastic vision of increasing food security. So the ask, this is where we come in, is that we respectfully request that the lease rate be the same as when it was when we started in 2021, 1,398 a year. 5-year security would be really appreciated, and waiving of the annual maintenance fees. And then lastly, I'll just leave you with the vision. Imagine in 2035, there's 20 greenhouses, and they're all providing foods for different avenues. I'm at the point now that I know enough that I can teach people what needs to be done to be successful. I would be more than willing to help someone if they wanted to, start a nonprofit that would grow food for the food banks or for the snack and lunch programs for the children and the youths at the high school or the seniors or even restaurants. Why should they buy greens from California when they could be growing delicious greens locally? So I'll leave you with that. Oh, yes, and there's my daughter Tilly helping with the Saturday markets. We had a blast this summer, and I would like to see many more tables with other vendors selling their produce to locals. So, and lastly, I'd like to thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Louise. I do appreciate that. Maybe I'll look to the committee to see if there's any questions specifically or any comments for you. And I'm looking up at my screen. I can see 1, 2, Marilyn and Kirsten, and then Veda. I don't see you on my screen. If you've got your hand up, no. I got so Louise, I got a couple of questions. Just and thank you for the presentation. And I'm well familiar with Tofino Farms, and of course seeing well, where was Sophia? Anyways,
Yeah.
just the labor source out there. Is Tofino Food Farms, is it a nonprofit or is it a business?
It's a business, absolutely. And most farmers in Canada, it is a business. And as a business, there's a little more independence as farmers usually are. And things can happen a bit quicker. If we need a water tank immediately because it's March and things are drying up, we can just go out and buy a water tank. So for expediency's sake, we decided to go that route. Yeah.
Good, thank you. So, I mean, that it does pose some issues for the committee to be able to make the kinds of recommendations. And we appreciate the food security, and the ACRD has done an incredible job, as you know, and as you pointed out with the agricultural plan and some of the work with Heather Shobe, as you know, over the years here on the West Coast. So I very much appreciate, and as part of our strategic visioning, very much in line. One of the challenges, of course, is that when those revenues that we use to finance everything, these types of asks do impact those, and so that's a consideration the board will have to make. What I would, and there's also at the same time, there's a lot of work being done on the long-term management plan that is in conjunction with Tloquet First Nations. So
Great.
that plan is active and in the motion. And I think some of these questions around, in essence, a subsidy for the business to produce food in our region is something that could be incorporated, I think, into that long-term plan. So I would look to maybe a question to staff in terms of the the request could from the committee can come up to the board to include that consideration in our budget planning process. And I just maybe would look to staff to see if what that process would look like, if it would be a recommendation to the board to have this type of request that you've made brought to the budget table, and then we can have a full board discussion around that. So maybe I'm not sure who would be able to answer that. I see Heather on my screen. Heather, would that be the appropriate maybe direction to go to the board? May recommend or the committee recommend to the board to look at the request of Tofino Farms through the budget process?
Actually, Brett's got her hand up, so I'll let her answer. She wants to get in there.
Okay, I can't. Sorry, I don't read on there. So thank
That's
you.
okay.
There,
To the
thank you,
chair,
Brett.
thank
Now I switched screens here. Great, thank you. If you could answer, that would be great. Thank you.
No problem. So, we're struggling with the same thing in-house. In the absence of a policy, a one-off recommendation is really tough. We're in the beginning stages of the land use plan for the airport lands. So perhaps staff could, or the board could look at a short-term decision to extend the existing rate until the land use plan is in place. And then we can make some decisions for further context and perhaps provide more of a clear and transparent system for all parties moving forward.
Thank you, Brett. Yeah, and I see Daniel has his hand up there. Go ahead, please, Daniel.
Hey, Tom. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm at a terminal building. What Brett is saying makes sense. But because it's a business, we still run against the legislation for assistance to business that we really have to be mindful of. In this case, what I would recommend is maybe we can have a small discussion with Louise, because Louise, you mentioned that there are things that you can offer the community, mentorship, training for others that are perhaps in the same position. And so what I would recommend is that we explore a partnership agreement. A partnership agreement would allow us to navigate the assistance to business legislation. And what the process would be is we would identify some sort of community value that you can provide as part of your operations at the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And we would agree on that, or we would agree on the fact that that value is then something that we wrap into an in-kind that thus lowers your overall rate. And that would allow us to navigate the legislation. It would allow us to also provide a consistent answer to any other business that says, hey, how can I get this deal? And it would help us navigate. I think what Brett is saying is to get to that longer term with Tloquet Nation, which we're not quite there yet. So we'd likely still do that 3 years because those are the windows that we have. But it would allow us to at least get the right rate and to establish a partnership agreement that would that should hopefully keep us above board and set an example for other businesses if they so choose to go down that route.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. Would that then be who would Louise reach out to directly then at staff level?
If Louise can continue coordinating with Brett, that would be great. And Brett and I will meet on our end as staff, and I'll make sure Brett is fully equipped, or I will personally attend a meeting that Brett coordinates.
Great. Thank you. That's wonderful. Well, moving on to the next, we have another Rogers on the agenda here. James Rogers, co-founder and executive director of Coastal Animal Rescue and Education, the Good Old Care Network, regarding reduced lease rates for nonprofits at Long Beach Airport. A similar theme.
Hi, everybody.
There.
Sorry.
Are you there? There we are, James. You got you on the screen. Yeah, welcome. You've probably already heard the 10-minute time limit, but certainly if you need to go longer, just I'll stop and just get a resolution from the committee to move forward. And welcome. Good to see you, man.
Thank you. Good to see you too. And I'm joining from the Long Beach Airport lands as well, here at the Care Network Animal Shelter facility. And so Heather's going to control my PowerPoint just to avoid some technical difficulties on my side. So I'll just start with a quick update of Care Network. In fact, sorry, there's just a dog that I have to let out of the office. Sorry, 1 second. There you go. Sorry, it's been a busy morning at the shelter. So this guy sort of put Care Network on the map recently for misplacing his boa at the beach. Fun fact, the most media attention Care Network has received in the last 10 plus years was because of this boa going missing on the beach. And Heather, if you could go to the next slide. This is just a few sort of stats. Again, our certificate of incorporation as a nonprofit society here in British Columbia. And you can see there a list of the communities we work with, which is pretty much everybody on the coast. And we've been going since about 2012 as a group of volunteers, and then actually registered as a society in 2015. And it was at that point, we were still just sort of a foster-based group, working out of our homes and cars. And then a few years later, we established I guess it was, I think 2019, established the facility here at the airport, just based on needing more capacity. As you can see, over the years, we've helped well over 7,500 animals. And during COVID, our services were actually deemed essential by the province, both in the bylaw enforcement role we play in some communities, as well with our some of our veterinary services that we provide. And Heather, if you could go to the next slide, please. So big part of our work is taking unwanted puppies out of communities just to try and keep control over the animal populations, the dog populations. Right now, Houseit is experiencing a lot of serious dog issues, dogs that have just become very bitey lately. I think it was just on the weekend, a very young child was bitten, and really dog bites seemingly every week right now. So rehoming puppies is a big part of what we do. Next slide, please. Of course, also kittens. The cats get out of control even faster than the dogs. And so we'll often, this morning was quite busy with kittens. We had some feral cats, and so we do some socializing and then also rehoming when possible. Next slide. And we also rehabilitate bitey dogs. This is Roscoe. He's been with us for a number of years. He now lives at the shelter. This is him on Check News as one of our attempts to get him adopted. But again, bitey history, but he's now rehabilitated. And although he wears a muzzle in public, he's become sort of a mascot of sorts for Care Network. And lots of volunteers come just to walk Roscoe up and down Airport Road. Next slide. Of course, I said we will help any animals in need. Over the years, that's included the cows. You can see here, Norman is one of the calves that was attacked by dogs, the most recent calf. So in these cases, and now Taloqui has some new programs going on with the cows, which is fantastic. But from time to time, we've had to clear out the shelter of dogs, put them in foster homes to make room for cows. And it's always a bit of a challenge, just given that we are in the middle of a park. So we do have the electric fences to manage that. Next slide, please. And again, a lot of wildlife, lots of birds. Eagles seem to be in the spring, and we'll assist often, supporting other agencies, whether it's parks or BC Parks or the Pacific Rim National Park, but also worked with DFO and the conservation officers, and then the wildlife rescue organizations across the island. So really a hub of animal services, and like I said, some of those being deemed essential during COVID. Next slide. And then there's the helping lost animals get reunited with their families. So whether that's visitors, somebody showing up in an RV with their cat that gets out at Long Beach, or just local dogs. We've got a pretty good network to quickly reunite lost animals with their families. Next slide. A couple of years ago, we started BC's first nonprofit mobile vet service, just out of sort of desperation, really. So this is our second vetmobile here. We've done about just over 1,000 spays and neuters in this trailer. This is our rig on its way over to Flores Island to do a spay neuter clinic for a house it. We now have 4 vetmobiles and are sort of expanding where we put those vetmobiles so that we can serve more rural and remote and usually Indigenous communities around the province. Next slide. Oh, this is Dr. Mackenzie, grew up in Ucluelet, was our first vet. And this is her inside that same unit that you just saw. I think she's doing a neuter here. Next slide. We've also started developing animal infrastructure for different communities and other organizations. So we have a team that builds vetmobiles. Seeing as we're a nonprofit, we seem to be able to do it cheaper than anybody else, and we have quite a bit of experience, as well as animal shelter units for the remote communities. And really, it's becoming quite apparent how integral this infrastructure is, and there isn't really anything being done to fill this gap right now. So we're currently building 2 of these kinds of units for some remote communities, and have plans for some more. And that's starting to spread across BC and in fact, Canada. Next slide. So this is just a quick summary. Again, a lot of our work is about community health and safety services, of course, and the fact that community animal management is a disproportionate social determinant of health in Indigenous communities is a big focus of ours. We're actually working with the University of Winnipeg on a pretty sizable research project with a bunch of different nations on coming up with some culture-based solutions to address this unjust sort of health situation that really has roots back to 1876, the 1876 Indian Act, and of course before that. And the other piece there is just a little screenshot from, I think it was CBT's, or is it there? Yeah, the 2016 Vital Signs report, just sort of showing that these kinds of services can improve community health and safety, as shown here for, I think, a house it. Next slide. So we are a very invested, I would say, tenant. We've took over the space that was identified back in 2019 as a unusable space for any other tenants. It's the site of the old officers' mess, which we don't use. It's not part of our lease. We always thought that would be a nice future plan to essentially rehabilitate the building and use that as our base of operations. But with that not being possible, we've set up with a couple of ATCO units and a lot of volunteer labor to create this facility here, which we started as an off-grid facility, but now do have water and power, but we're still not on sewer. The location here at the airport is fantastic for us. Again, very central, as Louise mentioned, for the farms. It's the same for us. We do spend, time traveling, from Hot Springs to Macoa, so this does tend to be fairly central. It's also nice having the access to the airfield here, because we do have some volunteer pilots that will transport animals in dire straits. And so being able to walk them over to the landing strip is fantastic. Next slide, please. So this is what's happened with our lease. As you can see, a pretty drastic increase as of 2024. And so what we're hoping to do, it's pretty tough going running a nonprofit on the coast. The cost of living here is pretty high. We see businesses struggling with the cost of staffing and staff housing issues, and just all of those usual things, and that's with revenue. And so as a nonprofit, we are struggling with all those same issues without revenue. Our funding, when it comes, is typically small donations. We rely on pop bottles and beer cans that are donated. The proceeds donated through the local Return It program. But these kinds of increases in our sort of core costs, pretty devastating for us. We run a really tight ship, and would really like to explore ways to get back to that affordable $2,400 lease that we agreed to back when we started, just to, again, to be able to continue providing these essential services to all the communities in the region. Next slide. For another discussion, we always have other things we'd like to do with the region. We do think that there's some economies of scale to coming up with a regional community animal management strategy and plan. Right now, it's sort of divided between the communities. Everybody does a little bit, here and there, but I think there's definitely some exploring to be done on what a regional service might look like. And of course, if ACRD is ever interested in picking up the conversation about the officers' mess going from a $250,000 liability at least to an asset, we'd be happy to talk about how we could work together on that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, James. I appreciate once again coming in and presenting to the committee and just updating us on. And I know a lot of the activities that go on and the work that you do and the great value that it brings to our region and the services that it does provide. I'll look to the committee to see if there's any comments or questions for you. I've got everyone. I don't have Vade on my screen, so if there isn't, please just speak up if there's any board members that have any questions for James. Go ahead, Director McEwen.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So just looking to staff to see what could potentially be done in this case, because this is not a business, this is a nonprofit. And so I don't know if it would be something similar as a partnership agreement, because it looks like the Care Network is available to do some upgrades to the property. So just looking to staff, to Daniel, to see if what could possibly be done in this situation.
Oh, well, I will start, and then maybe Brett, you can jump in. With a society, the rules are slightly different, and so we can explore different venues. However, I would still echo that the strongest position for the ACRD to hold with regard to any deviations from existing plans is a partnership agreement, even if it's with a society. And so it would require, similar to what I was saying with Louise, that we'd sit down and explore those options first, and make sure that we can build something that we're confident with, and then take that back to the committee or the board as the case may be, depending on timing, so that we can achieve that. And it's always running that line, right? Like the reason for I think the board is aware and the committee's aware of why the rate increases have gone up, and they will do that every time we do a market review. Because we can't be assisting business, and part of the rules is doing these market reviews so that lease rates can be readjusted to those market rates. Our safest pathway is the partnership agreements, because there again, we can agree on value. We can the process, just so everyone's aware, is that we would negotiate what that partnership is, which includes the value being produced for the community. We would post that publicly, because there has to be a public input opportunity. If people, for whatever reason, would disagree, they would have the opportunity to state that, and then the board would take all that information prior to any final endorsement and decision. So we'd move forward from there. So it does take a little bit of time and dialogue, but I would recommend that we start there, because it is our strongest legislative position, where we're not open to any court filings from people who feel that they have been unjustly handled on their behalf. And so that's where I would start. Brett, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Daniel. To the chair, my comments are parallel to Daniel's. So we've worked with James over the last 6 months to reduce their lease footprint, and thus reducing their monthly market rates. When the bylaw was passed in 2024 to bring all leaseholders to market rate, there was no exemption policies made for not-for-profits at that time. However, this is why we have these fantastic discussions and these great presentations, to move forward and find a solution that works for both the individuals in front of us and the ACRD, and of course the eyes of the public too. So really looking forward to having bigger conversations in the future, James and Louise also, and looking forward to seeing what a partnership will look like. I'll be in touch with you guys both in the next couple weeks.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll look to the rest of the board. I don't see any other hands up. Thanks once again, James, for presenting here today, and I think we've got a pathway forward for both you and Louise. Have a good one. Take care. Moving on the agenda, we have Michelle Hall. Said hi to her on the beach this morning. Capital Campaign Lead, Clayoquot Biosphere Trust, regarding Clayoquot Sound Biosphere Center building update and request for support from the Community Works funding. Are you, Michelle?
I'm here.
You're there. Awesome. There. Now I've got you on my screen. Great. Welcome. And you already heard the preamble around the 10 minutes. And thank you for coming here today. And please go ahead.
Thanks for having me, everybody. I'm calling in from the traditional territory of the Tulakwits, and I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah, thanks again for having me. As Tom mentioned, I'm here to give you an update of the Clayoquot Sound Biosphere Centre, many of which of you already know about, and the ACRD have already provided some letters of support in the past, which we're really grateful for. And so, as well as giving you a progress report of the project so far, I also want to explore a conversation for any unallocated funding for the Community Works portion of the UBCM Community Works funding. So a little bit about CBT. I'm sure all of you are well aware of our works. Clayoquot Biosphere Trust is the local community foundation and also the steward of the Biosphere Region designation. As the local community foundation, we serve all of the communities on the West Coast, and our board of governance is set so that each community on the West Coast has a board member as part of the CBT, which really makes sure that all of the priorities and opportunities are brought firsthand from the communities to the organization. In 2024, little snapshot, we gave over 1.2 million in grants, and that little pie chart gives you an idea of where those funds were allocated in the communities. And since 2000, the CBT has actually invested more than 5.5 million in these projects, which is fantastic. Oh, where did my screen go? Sorry, I had a glitch there. Some more of the 2024 impacts. We supported 128 local projects last year, and also gave out 8 education awards through our education awards scheme. 69 organizations were funded, and there's some little photographs here of some of the projects that we funded, including the Surfrider Youth Environmental Stewardship Program and some salmon monitoring with the Redfish organization. And we also supported 7 new Charmouth language grants. Most of you already know about the vital signs reports. We provide this report every couple of years for the community, and it's a snapshot of the social and ecological health in the community. I won't read everything on the screen, but in this region, 33% of people are identifying as Indigenous, and we are seeing a rise of depression and mood and anxiety orders increased on the coast. We're actually the 4th highest in BC for substance-related deaths, and on a weekly basis, we reported that youth are increasingly feeling more depressed and stressed and anxious or worried. We have high numbers of students in grades 7 and 4 that are classed as vulnerable, and housing costs have risen by 39%. The living wage has risen to 26.51 cents an hour, and that's just indicative that, you know, we're largely a tourism economy here. Tourism is a major driver of economy, employing 32% of the region's workers, but that also causes, you know, higher costs in housing and food and other areas. So one of the priorities of the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust is to build this Biosphere Centre, which will be a hub for education, training, reskilling, and workshops and events to be held. We really see this as a pathway to a huge regional impact. It's going to advance equity, strengthen food systems, and revitalize local economies through things like arts and culture, really spreading the curve of tourism over the entire 12 months of the year by offering a space for culinary tourism, educational tourism, cultural tourism. So really seeing this as a piece of infrastructure that's going to support economic development in the realm of tourism, culture, and thus providing more resilience and community health through providing more opportunities for local residents to participate in a learning opportunity that can increase employability in this region. Some of the cool spaces in the centre include the visitor centre. So it's in addition to the already fantastic tourism assets that are here, but this will really be a space to have more rotating exhibits and tell a unique story of the biosphere region, its designation, and the rich cultural heritage here. It'll have an elders room, which will be open for elders to have their own programming there, whether that's Indigenous language and cultural preservation. It'll have this teaching kitchen, which is unlike any other kitchen that is available here on the coast, in the way that it is has mobile cooking units, so it can be set up as a teaching kitchen or a demonstration kitchen. Helping to support not only food security on the coast or culinary training, but offer some workshops for tourism who wouldn't have that access to traditional ways of cooking, for example. There'll be different collaborative working spaces So that'll be for folks who don't necessarily have the means to have a desk in Tofino. There's over 42 nonprofits here, and space is really vital for folks. So opening up this space as a co-working, lots of different workshop areas with a huge education and training space. A lot of you may be familiar with the Nest, which is the local initiative run by CBT to encourage and help support visiting learning workshops and events who visit this region, have their own educational workshop here in the region. But often spaces are unaffordable or not really appropriate. You see people having to rent, expensive hotel rooms, etc. So we really want this to be a space that folks can afford to use, that is accessible to everybody. It'll have a library and archive section, some interpretive and exhibit spaces. It will host an art program, which will again increase the economic benefits for local artists and especially Indigenous artists on the coasts. And yeah, a ceremonial fire pit outside for as an extension of the teaching kitchen. We know that this building will also serve a lot of the calls to action for truth and reconciliation by supporting the Charnoth members develop new programs. We mentioned a few of them before, like language revitalization. It will also be a space to ensure that New Charnoth folks feel welcome and included, and it's accessible to support language revitalization. It'll be a space that visitors can come to learn about what the cultural heritage of this region is, and just be a space that's going to build capacity for understanding and empathy when it comes to truth and reconciliation. CBT just hosted our annual event at the local USS school, which is a fantastic collaboration with the Legacy of Hope Museum. But we really want to see these kinds of events be accessible year round and not just a one-day event that's, in a school that might not be as accessible to the public. So a snapshot of where we are right now with the Biosphere Centre. As you know, we've already purchased and rezoned the land. We've had over 80 letters of support, and that's growing. It is going to be built with zero carbon living, and it's already had the designs and schematics completed. The building permit is still in it's still submitted with the District of Tofino, and we're waiting on them. And yeah, it's a 20 million project cost with 12.5 million secured right now. 7.2 of that was from the federal government for the GICB Green Inclusive Community Buildings Grant. And we still have a $5 million ask to the province, which is pending their budgetary review in March 2026. And we have 1.7 million asks in private donors pending. The goal is still to break ground this year. Time is ticking, and the anticipated completion date would be 2027. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Yeah, and this conversation is really just to discuss if there is any process that CBT could follow in regards to the Community Works funding. I know I've spoken to a couple of staff about unallocated funding. I realize that a lot of the ACRD Community Works funding through the UBCM has already been allocated, but there was talk of some unallocated funding. And so my interest would be if ACRD would be willing to collaborate on that funding.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And I will once again thank you for the presentation and updating the committee as to the works of the CBT, and congratulate you guys on the 21st anniversary celebrations. Was that 2 weeks ago now? I'm thinking somewhere in that range. It was fantastic celebration and great food, by the way. So I'm going to look to the committee on my screen to see if there's any questions. I think I don't see any hands going up at this point. I think you're at the very end, you're asked for that collaboration or community around the community funding in that unallocated funding. I'm going to look to staff to see, because you looked at maybe what the process would be, and so I'll look to staff to see if they can give you some information. I know you've already had conversations, but maybe if they could also inform the committee as to what that might look like. I'll look. I'm not sure who would speak to that. Daniel, I know, is there, but I'm not sure.
I think I might. I'm
Okay.
not sure. Can you hear me okay, Tom?
I can, yeah.
Okay. We can certainly we'll certainly explore it. I do know that we've got a number of irons in the fire, so to speak, when it comes to grants. And I do know that around some of the grant funding that the rules have changed, so it makes it a little bit more challenging to give that grant to another agency, because it has to be held against in some cases, not all grants, but I know like the grant pocket, formerly known as the gas tax, has tighter rules right now for how we have to assess against other community projects. That said, we can certainly sit down, explore that, and see what opportunities are there, and include our budget discussions, which will be starting shortly for the board, and that would be when we make a decision on any allocation of unutilized funds. It's not the best answer up front, but I'm not 100% up to speed on all the various grant aspects, and so I would have to just get familiar with what's still available right now that we're holding on to.
Thank you, and I see. Thank you, Daniel. Heather, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit more context for the Community Works Fund. There is $100,000 that's unallocated through 2029. However, Daniel did mention that there's some changes to the rules regarding that funding. And we really would need to ensure that there are no ACRD capital projects that would need that funding before we could allocate funding to a third party. But I think, Michelle, if you were to send a letter to the regional district board, you can send it to me. We can put it on the agenda, and then at least we can get a formal resolution for staff to engage with you on that.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, I was looking towards that process that might be available to them, and recognizing that there are projects within the ACRD that obviously we wouldn't want to be competing with in these circumstances or have those funds available for. Michelle, did you have a comment there, or?
I did, just while I've got the opportunity. Would this be the right place to also ask for an updated letter of support? We are going to apply for the said federal funding with Pacific Can and the next round of REDIP with the provincial government, and just looking for a letter of support from ACRD.
Yeah, I think that shouldn't be a problem. That'll go up to the board and we can recommend. Heather, should we a resolution for that?
Please.
Yeah, so I'll move from the chair to take to the board a letter of support. Michelle, if you can give the name of the grant that would, I couldn't remember, and we'll take that to the board for consideration.
Yes, the two grants are said, which is the Federal Economic Diversification Funding with Pacific Can. That would be for 500,000, and the next would be the REDIP, which is the Rural Economic Diversification Infrastructure Program, and that would be for 1 million.
Great, thank you. And I'll look for a seconder. Is that enough, Heather? Just, yeah, okay, great. I'll look for a seconder. Thank you, Vedic, since I got you on my screen. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. And once again, thank you, Michelle, for coming today and presenting to the committee. It's always wonderful to, well, I know mostly what's going on, but it's wonderful to share that with the broader community. So thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. So further on our agenda, we'll move into our correspondence. There we have a letter from Robin Mayer, resident of Ucluelet, regarding animal-friendly alternative to the West Coast three-stream system. And I don't know if there's any comment from staff, but I'll look maybe to the committee at this point to see if there was any questions or comments that they have regarding the correspondence to the committee. I don't see any hands coming up. There was a couple of requests within the letter of correspondence, and I'll just flip to my notes here. Regarding there was a the request was for a review and reconsider our waste management practices with wildlife safety in mind. And I know that there has been some conversation earlier around, and I think Veda, we had talked about at committee level around a centralized location for pickup within the district of Ucluelet. I'm just looking here in my notes. That there has been some work done, and I know that there's further conversation that is going on, and there was through, if I flip over, I believe through WildSafe BC, there is some work, a pilot project that is going on, and I'm not sure what was inclusive of that, but I think there was also earlier on there was a conversation around a formal cost analysis, and I'm wondering if that had been completed for that centralized community bin in it. And if that would be included in that pilot project that I believe WildSafe BC is initiating. I don't know which staff member might be able to comment on that.
I can comment on that. My name is Tanya Crothers. I'm the new solid waste manager for ACRD. It's nice to meet you.
Hi, Tanya.
Hello. Great to meet you. So we are on the December 4th meeting, we were asked to do that cost analysis, but in the meantime, this pilot has come up that addresses the bear issues through human behavior and adjusting human behavior, and sort of embraces the investment that we've made into the three stream system. So we're waiting for this pilot to conclude so that we can use the findings to determine whether to stick with the three stream system or really start to evaluate that community approach with the communal bins. There's challenges with communal bins related to accountability and contamination, and also it's a win if we can utilize the system we already have in place from a financial perspective. So we are definitely on top of this. We have been engaging with WildSafe BC on that pilot, and we're excited to see what the results are. And later in today's agenda, we'll be talking more about that pilot program.
Thank you, Tanya. Appreciate the update there, and welcome. I see Veda has her hand up there. Please go ahead, Veda.
Hi, thanks. Again, I will reiterate that this is reinventing the wheel. There's been extensive research and reinvention of garbage containment in national parks in Canada and throughout the world. We've gone from bins with bears swinging on them to bears not being able to get into bins. And I think what we have to do is look at these best practices that are in the national parks. There's bins at the end of, every block, and they are bear safe. And that means that the company that is actually doing the transport has to ensure that those bins are the approved bear-proof bins. I had suggested that we bring like the mayor of Jasper come in just to speak to it, because it just feels like we're reinventing a wheel when it doesn't need to be done. So Tanya, welcome, and I look forward to hopefully working with you towards some solutions on this. And Marilyn, I'm wondering if there was a bin put into Ucluelet and what the effectiveness of that would be.
I don't know of a bin that was put into Ucluelet. Where would it have been put?
I had asked that it be put up near the trailer court because they were having the highest incidence of bear-human interaction there. And that would have been quite a few meetings ago.
Yeah, I am not aware of one. Sorry, I have no information for you.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Any other questions from or comments from the committee? Just looking around. Seeing none. Thank you for the input on there. And yeah, I think further down in our agenda, we will be having Tanya will probably be commenting. I get it on the WildSafe BC program and the work that's being done there. So next on our correspondence agenda was a letter from Mako Noel, Food Bank on the Edge, regarding February request for assistance with demolition and removal cost for building projects. I'll look once again to the committee to see if there's any comment on that. I know that we have had extensive talks and that the tipping fee waiver has gone through the board. And I'm just, and if I don't see any hands going up, I do have just a question regarding, and oh, Marilyn, please go ahead first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I brought this up at the last board meeting because the second part of his ask seemed to have just gone missing. So I just wanted to bring it back to the board's attention, and he has since sent a subsequent letter as well. So just to follow up with the board on that.
Great, thank you, Marilyn. Beta, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, does the food bank service the entire ACRD and Tofino Ucluelet communities?
Marilyn, would you like to comment?
Yes, it does. It services all the West Coast communities. I don't think it goes to Salmon Beach. I'm not sure about Salmon Beach, but it definitely services everything from Tofino to Ucluelet, and in between. All the nations are serviced as well.
Go ahead, Beta.
So just in pure terms of budgetary management, can we get a breakdown of how much this would be for each area? If we were to put this through, and maybe it could be presented at, if we do bring this forward to the board level with the economics of it. Thanks.
I obviously wouldn't have that information, and in terms of our CFO, I don't know if she's on here today, but that information I don't think we'd have available to us right here with the staff available to us today. We certainly could be a request. We can make Heather, if we made a resolution at the committee level up to the board to have that investigated, would that be the appropriate process? Great. So Beta, did you want to make that resolution?
Yes, I would like to propose that the West Coast Committee recommend that the financial implications of granting the request for the food bank, I believe it was for $20,000, be explored and presented at our next board meeting.
Okay.
It might not be able to be for the next one, but the
next appropriate board meeting.
There we go. Yeah, that's tomorrow. Heather, is that sufficient?
Yeah, I just put at a future board meeting.
Great, thank you. And do we have a seconder for that? Great, and I do have a comment. I just, Marilyn, you did speak to the fact that the Food Bank on the Edge does service the wider West Coast. I was on the food bank board for many, many years. And one of the, from the Tofino end of the peninsula, is the other, we did a financial contribution to the Food Bank on the Edge at this year's, in this year to the food bank. We also have our own agency here in Tofino, the Fish and Loaves, that does similar in terms of providing that food, in some sense, food security support for many of our residents here locally. And one of the pieces of information I would be curious about if the Food Bank on the Edge, and I don't see any representation here today, is to look at the service levels, just to get an idea, because it is difficult for the district to be supplying those two, which they provide both great services, but there's only so much contribution room that we have. So it would be interesting to see the amount of service levels that the Food Bank on the Edge based in Ucluelet does service out here into our community. That being said, I know for many years being on the board of the incredible value it brings to the whole West Coast region and the work that they do. So great. If there's no other comments there, I will make the motion from the chair that the West Coast. Oh yeah, we still have to vote on that. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Thank you. I saw Heather going, wait a minute here. Great. So I'll move from the chair also that the West Coast Committee receive these items of correspondence. Thank you for seconding there, Director Siga. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. I'm going to have to get Kirsten onto my screen here because I don't see her because she's probably raised her hands a couple times here. So I apologize, Kirsten. I'm going to try to get you on my screen here. So next up on our agenda is a couple of requests for decisions. The first being a proposed development of the West Coast ICI diversion program. And is that going to be Tanya? Are you going to be speaking to that one?
That is me again.
Great. Excellent. Well, welcome again and look
you.
forward to this. I have a few questions about this.
Yeah. All right, so this item for your consideration is to recommend approval of developing a program aimed at reducing industrial, commercial, and institutional waste on the West Coast. And for the purpose of this report, I'll refer to that as ICI. And also increasing revenue for operations at the West Coast landfill. The West Coast landfill is experiencing financial challenges due to limited revenue streams that do not cover operational costs. And so tipping fees need to be increased to reflect the actual cost of waste disposal. On the West Coast, ICI generators create more than twice as much waste annually compared to the local residents. And so the proposal is to focus on those really high use generators and increase fees only for the ICI sector via a phased approach year over year. It's anticipated that the increased fee will generate more interest in diversion programs within the business community on the West Coast. Therefore, the program will also incentivize diversion efforts by offering financial support to businesses to help offset the initial costs of switching to those diversion programs. And costs associated with that can include costs for staff training, costs for purchasing the properly colored bins, staff, costs for signage, installation of waste sorting systems for tourists to use on the front end. It's not just back end, it's front end and how people sort at the restaurant and whatnot. So there's costs to proper diversion systems that would be supported through this program. In summary, establishment and implementation of the proposed program will incentivize diversion by the ICI sector on the West Coast, while also providing additional revenue needed to support the daily operations of the West Coast landfill and currently unfunded capital projects that need to get done. This initiative would support strategy 2.1 and 2.2 of the strategic plan to advance the development of an asset management program and to undertake a comprehensive solid waste management plan review. The initiative is in alignment with bylaw R1033 to provide for the regulation of recycling, with solid waste disposal and tipping fees at the West Coast landfill. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to take questions.
Great. Thank you very much for the report. I'll look to the committee to see if there's any questions or comments. Dr. McEwen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to express my complete support for this initiative. It's something that I've been encouraging my neighbors to do, to separate construction and demolition materials and not just throw it all in one big heap at the dump. So this would be fantastic. I would love to see this happen.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. Beta, did you have your hand up?
I think Marilyn said it, just that I'm really looking forward to this. We've had businesses that have been using materials for serving food that can totally go into our compost system, and it's being bagged up in black garbage bags and going to the dump. So high time. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. And Kirsten, I've got you on my screen now. I can see that you don't have your hand up. Great. Just a couple of questions in terms of it's a catch-22 in some ways in terms of the increase those tipping fees, and then we really want to incentivize less stuff coming in. So there's a revenue question for sure in terms of the cost of doing that. But at the same time, it's incredibly important, as we all know, that the longevity of our landfill is one of our prime concerns, and so I'm very supportive of the program. I did have, and as has been pointed out time and time again, we've identified as one of the major contributors to our landfill is the ICI program. Just a quick question, Tanya, how much engagement has there been with the sector in terms of the conversations around, well, specifically around diversion, but any comments around the increased tipping fees, which is often the financial incentive is a big one as well, as we know.
Yeah, I'm relatively new here. From what I understand, there hasn't been huge amount of engagement about the increased fees. However, we would come up with an engagement plan, and they won't become effective until January 1, 2026. So we've got this fall to iron that out and do the necessary engagement to warn people that the program is coming.
Great, thank you. I think that will be a very important part, is once again, we don't want to blindside any of our community members and give them the opportunity to start working on those diversions and doing the right thing, as they say. So I highly encourage that engagement plan to be very focused. I think we've got a number of recommendations here that are here. Instead of me doing all the talking, I'm going to look to one of my committee members if they would like to make that. Thank you, Marilyn. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I will move that the West Coast Committee recommend that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct staff to develop a detailed proposal for a program aimed at reducing industrial, commercial, and institutional, also known as ICI, waste on the West Coast through 1, a phased standard rate increase for ICI tipping fees at the West Coast landfill to encourage waste diversion and reflect the true cost of landfill disposal. And 2, an ICI landfill diversion program to encourage businesses in establishing and participating in diversion initiatives. And that the West Coast Committee recommend that the board direct staff to prepare an amendment to bylaw R1033 as part of the proposed program.
And I have a seconder. Thank you, Kirsten. Any other comments from the board? No? Great. Yeah, it sounds good. A lot of work ahead of you. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. Next on our agenda, we have another request for decision, a preliminary lease application, Long Beach Airport lease 2025-003.
Thank you, Tom. All right, to the chair, this is a preliminary lease application for the Redfish Restoration Society in partnership with Colloquiet First Nations. They are requesting a 10-year lease on a parcel of land in the southern end of the Long Beach Airport outside of the fenced area at a below market rate. The purpose is to cultivate willow for salmon restoration habitat projects. Key activities will include removing invasive Scotch broom, planting and maintaining natural and native willow, conducting an annual willow harvest to supply watershed restoration, and creating employment and training opportunities for TFN members. Approximately 30 hours of staff time will be required to process the application and prepare the legal agreements. A partnership agreement and a below market lease rate are recommended as part of our community value for reconciliation, restoration, and education outweigh the market return. The proposal is consistent with the ACRD's broader commitments to reconciliation, ecological stewardship, and sustainable land use. And it aligns with the strategic objectives around climate resiliency, emergency adaptation, and partnerships. The recommendation is that the committee support the preliminary lease and forward it to the ACRD board for further legal and public process steps before final approval. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that once again. I'll look to the committee for any comments or questions to Brett around the lease. No, I think very support. I had just you know, you pointed out, and as Daniel's pointed out as well, those partnership agreements seem to be the path that we'll be following within these, and I think it's a great way to have clarity for all and equity. I suppose would be the other piece of that coin. Just in terms of the 10-year lease commitment, I know historically it's been a 3-year lease commitment. In general, we've been working on our long-term management plan about addressing those sort of longer-term lease areas. And I'm wondering how is, in this particular case, how is a 10-year lease decided upon in terms of the longevity of this particular agreement?
So there is precedent already at Long Beach Airport for longer term lease agreements, upwards of 25 and 30 years. And being new in the role, I'm still adjusting to how that process works out. But again, there is precedent, and they allotted for the 10-year lease agreement in their preliminary application. And I know that we've already got other leaseholders like Parks Canada that are on 10-year agreements. Let me dig a little bit further into that, and I can give the committee some better information.
Right. Yeah. Just you know, in that long-term planning process, and certainly with some of the airway runway side applications where they're looking for longer lease commitments, upwards of 50 years, where so they can start putting some capital into those projects with a bit of security in there. So certainly I'm looking forward to that long-term management plan up there in collaboration with Telokwe First Nations, and I think a lot of those questions will come forward there. So thank you. Veda, I see you've got your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, this is going to be outside of the fenced area, and the greenhouses are outside of fenced areas. But I haven't heard anything from Parks about what the impacts are in terms of Parks operation and wildlife management. And I'm wondering if maybe Dave could address that.
Well, thank you, Veda. And I see we have Dave in the room. I'm just going to scroll over there. Dave, are you still there? He is. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Veda, and thanks, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I would have to defer that to my staff, Veda. So I definitely appreciate you bringing that up. But we are in constant communication with the ACRD and the airport lands on both vegetation management and human-wildlife conflict management as well. So maybe if we could take this offline, and if someone could reach out to me directly, and I could put them in contact, Brett, with either Liam or Todd or Yuri or whoever needs to be involved. Thank you, Veda, for bringing us into the conversation.
And thank you, Dave. Appreciate you being here to provide that information. I'll look if there's no other questions. I've got everyone on my screen here. No other questions or comments from the committee. Who would like to read this one out? Oh, Veda, I see. Well, Kirsten, I see you smiling there as well, too, if you have it in front of you. Either one would be fine.
Okay, this is the Redfish Restoration Lease Agreement?
Correct.
Okay.
That's agenda item 7B.
Okay. I would like to move that the West Coast Committee support preliminary lease application LBA lease 2025-003 from Redfish Restoration Society, and recommend that the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District Board of Directors direct ACRD staff to complete necessary legal requirements, including but not limited to the development of a partnering agreement and a public notice of disposition in order to consider the possible approval of the final lease application.
Great. Thank you. Seconded. Thank you, Kirsten. Okay. Just a quick comment. I think part of this, the work here, once again, is really moving forward with our work with Telokwe First Nations and the conversations that we've been having in those long-term management plans. I think it's a great project in this way. It has a number of benefits that have already been alluded to in the report. So with that being said, all those in favor? Seeing none opposed, and motion carried. Now, just ripping through the agenda here today, we're now on to reports. First report that we have here is Area C, South Long Beach Official Community Plan Update. And I'll look to, is there a...
There's a couple staff on here. I don't think they have a presentation. I think they're more than happy to answer questions. Brooke and Kylie are on here.
Great. Thank you, Heather.
Yes. Hello. Yeah, we're happy to take any questions, but we have no presentation to report.
Great. Thank you. I'll maybe I will quickly look to see if Veda has her hand up. I'll switch over screens here. She may have a comment or question, and I'm not seeing.
I am looking forward to the next piece of this, which I do believe is getting down to the nitty-gritty, which will be very interesting. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Veda. Yeah, I did read through the report, and I am looking forward to the next piece of this, a large puzzle, as they say. Great. Next on our correspondence, reports, West Coast Transit seasonal service change. And I think I saw Eddie on here at one point. There he is.
Thank you. And through the chair, I was trying to get my camera to work, of course, and it always delays when you need it the most.
Yes.
This is just really to provide the committee a quick update on the seasonal service change in effect on October 5th. Typically, BC Transit will look at routes within the service that are the lowest ridership. So in this case, the late night trip was chosen to be removed because it was the lowest frequented trip. And it was also the trip within the day that was the most difficult as far as driver availability. So accommodations made it the choice to be removed seasonally. Of course, these seasonal changes allow for the service to be optimized annually, ensuring that the operating hours are put in place for the most efficient service, serving the most people throughout the year. Just a little note in there that we continue to work towards the situation and improving the situation for the residents of Millstream who have been adversely affected by the transit bus rolling through. So the number of buses are being reduced. I know the report says 18 to 9. Oops, it's 16 to 8 now per day. So that was my mistake in there. And we also continue to work with MOTT as far as identifying additional locations. As noted in the report, residents provided a potential location in July that MOTT communicated would not work as far as meeting the 200-meter sightline requirement. We have a couple of additional locations that we are hoping to get word back on. And there would be additional infrastructure work necessary before we can actually implement the stops and have them operational. So we're hoping at some point in the first quarter of 2026, we can have everything wrapped up. Yeah, that's kind of the update as far as that report. So happy to answer any questions as always and appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate the report here, and you knocked off a few of the things, I'm sure, questions that the board will have. Marilyn, I see you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to the seasonal service change, was there consultation done with anybody on the West Coast about this change, or was because this letter from this letter announcing the change says it's from BC Transit Communications, and the first I heard of it was when this exact same letter was showed up in my council package last week. So this took us completely off guard. Calling it a seasonal change seems to imply that it's meant for tourists, but I'd like to emphasize that the bus service is really meant for residents, and our residents don't leave the West Coast in the wintertime. They're still here. And a lot of teenage girls take those late night buses to and from Tofino to visit with friends. And I would hate to see them now have to hitchhike at that time of night. So just wondering if there was any consultation, and I understand that's the least ridership is the rationale for eliminating those two buses, but yeah, just wondering, was it strictly BC Transit's decision, or was there some consultation?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Mayor McEwen, and through the chair. We're currently in the process of revamping our West Coast Transit Committee. We had a working group, a long time working group. So we're in the process of revamping the committee. As far as this change, it was more driven on the BC Transit end. And I don't believe there were any additional consultations or communications.
And just to follow up on that, there are several special events coming up. I know the Oyster Festival is coming up in Tofino that people would like to go to, and there will be lots of Christmas type special events, and it's just a shame that those 2 late buses have been removed for those reasons.
Thank you, Marilyn. Points well taken. Any other questions from the board? I have just one quick question, Eddie. In terms of with the reduction of those services, specifically those 2 late night buses, is there financial implications regarding that? I'm just wondering, like, is it? And I know there are some potential staffing issues that are associated with that, but I'm just wondering, like, how much are we saving by those seasonal adjustments on those? If you may not have that information, but I'd be curious to see what that cost savings is.
Yes, thank you, and through the chair. So as far as cost savings, not so much, because the annual budget and the annual allotted number of hours are set before when the budget's rolled out, and that service change is included within that. So you don't actually see any financial impacts from the reduction.
That was my understanding. That's why I wanted to have it clearly articulated. So there would be, there's no real financial incentive for us to, other than potential staffing issues with running those buses at that time. So it might be a consideration that conversation with MOTT or BC Transit in terms of the conversation about why we be reducing that when, as Director McEwen has pointed out, there's still a value to that service, and we had agreed upon those service levels. So thanks, Eddie. I do appreciate it. Maybe if do you need a resolution or anything to do that, or is that a conversation you can have? Great. Thank you. I see you nodding your head. Awesome. Next up on the agenda, we have the WildSafe BC, the pilot reducing human-bear conflict. Who do we have on there? I can't see on my screen here. I'll slide over there. Tanya, there you are.
Hey. I'm happy to answer questions. Would you like a summary report real quick?
Well, I'll look maybe to the board. I have read it over, but I will maybe look to see if the committee has any, if they would like that, or if they have maybe any direct questions around that. I think we kind of covered it a little bit earlier in terms of the pilot project and what we'll be looking at, and certainly around those the bins that Director Siga had brought forward. So maybe if there's any, maybe I'll look to the committee to see if they have any specific questions on that. And I'm not seeing any hands go up. Just a quick one, and you may have already answered. It's the one that I've written down, and there's a lot of things going on in my head. So with this, when you were looking to get back as you the pilot project, I guess the information that'll come back from that at that point in time, I know the cost analysis. That's when you'll start looking at that in a little bit more detail. Is there any do we have a time frame for this coming forward?
So the grant is not led by us, it's led through WildSafe BC, the funding's through them, but they did include a timeline in their grant proposal. And so according to their grant proposal, they're hoping to have the pilot done in December 2025, at which point they'll summarize, analyze, and communicate the 2025 results of the pilot. And then in January 26, they're going to reassess goals and identify their opinion of what actions are needed for 26. So I think in that process, we'll start to get a better understanding of what the findings are from the pilot, and we'll certainly report back to the board as soon as we have a nice set of data to present to you. And then we can start looking at that more closely and how to extend that program or start looking at other solutions.
Great, thank you. I look forward to seeing that into the new year.
Yeah.
Anything from the board or from the committee? I keep saying board. Anything from the committee? Not seeing. I'll just slide over to see if Kirsten's got her. Nope. Great. I will. Yeah. Well, thank you. Seeing none. Thank you, Tanya, for that. Next on our agenda, we have all our ex officio members there, and I know we have Pacific Rim National Park with Dave there. Dave, do you have any to report out today or updates?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have a couple items. So we will be putting out some communications either today or tomorrow, but we're anticipating some construction on Highway 4 in the National Park Reserve near the Esawista entrance. And this will occur on Tuesday, October 14th. Hopefully it's just one day at the moment, but you never know. Once we start digging, it could be multiple days. So we will put, this could impact commuters and community members in the area. So we will be putting out social media messaging and official messaging. It will be single lane alternating traffic from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. depending on how things go on Tuesday, October 14th. Secondly, in the coming weeks, we're in advance of the winter season, and for safety reasons, we're looking at painting the center lines on Highway 4 all the way between the southern entrance to the Long Beach unit to the northern entrance. So again, there might be some delays later on, but as you all know, painting goes really, really quick, and it's more just a minor inconvenience for a greater good for safety for winter driving as the days start getting shorter and shorter. The third one is just an update to all of us. As wolves do not recognize any boundaries, but we've been putting out in coordination with both Colloquiet and Ukulathat, Pacific Rim National Park Reserve has been putting out some wolf kind of messaging. We did have a small an incident. I shouldn't say small. It was an incident that occurred in Florencia Bay. So we've taken 3 management actions. We just reinforced that all dogs need to be on leash. We've instituted a minimum approach distance for all bears, wolves, and cougars of at least 100 meters. Most of these are common sense, but it's good to reiterate as well and to make sure it's at the front of people's mind, both locals and visitors. And the third one is we've had some area closures in at Wickeninish Dunes and at the former gold mine trail as well, just to keep people away from areas where we're seeing more activity on our wildlife cameras. So, and all of that was done in collaboration with Colloquiet and Ukulathat. But I really wanted to bring it up in the West Coast Committee, as we all know these wolves go into Tofino, into the ACRD, into Millstream, into Yuki, and Itatsu, and everywhere. So it's just we're seeing a lot more activity, and just wanted to share that with you. And the last one, Chair, is just kind of an update on our visitation this year. So as everyone knows, there was our Prime Minister introduced free entry into national parks as part of the Canada Strong platform. Between end of June and start of September. We didn't really see an impact at Pacific Rim. Most of our increase in visitation was tied, we feel, was tied to mostly the domestic and international tourism trends and some of the policies that our neighbors to the south have implemented. Our hotel occupancy, as you all know, is quite elevated in July and August. Campgrounds are full as well. So it's just, we did see an increase in day users, but it wasn't a catastrophic increase in visitation to the area. And ironically, around mid-August, we did see a decline in visitation compared to last year and previous years. And we think that might have had to do with both the fires, both the Wesley Ridge fire and the Mount Underwood, and the amount of attention it was bringing to the area. And especially people booking from far away, they wanted to cancel and get their money back before they, it was canceled on them, and they wanted to make other plans. So overall, in the fiscal year, we're up 3% over last year and 5% over 2019, which was our last normal year. And July was up 2%, but August was actually down 2% because of that August kind of flow. But year over year, we're still up 3.5%. So, but again, things out of our control. But the Canada Strong, we feel didn't make a huge impact on our visitation. And in talking with both the DMOs from Tourism Ucluelet and Tourism Tofino, they saw similar numbers with that dip in visitation at the end of August as well. I believe that's it. That's it for my updates, Chair.
Great. Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate having you come and speak. It is an important part of our area. I see Director McEwen has a question or comment, maybe.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Dave, for your report. I was just wondering if we are still planning, or if you are still planning to do a season debrief on October 24th. I think we had that talk before the summer started about all the changes that were going to happen over the summer with the construction and the free park passes and everything. And then we had talked about doing a debrief, and I think October 24th was the date that was picked. Is that still happening?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mayor McEwen. Yes, definitely. I will send out a reminder. I think that's a couple weeks away, so I'll send out a reminder. And just for the rest of the West Coast Committee, this is in regards to, we set up a meeting, I'm going to say in June, maybe, Mayor McEwen. I can't remember when the meeting was, but this was kind of refreshing. We had a dispersed camping committee that happened during COVID, and we thought it was really relevant with the activity to kind of have a season startup meeting and a season ending meeting of various jurisdictions, First Nations, and organizations. So we had one in June, and as a group, we decided that would be a great idea to keep this going in future years and have one at the start of the year, one at the end of the year. So we're all communicating, and we all know what's happening with each other, and all of the parties here have representatives at those meetings. So yes, I will send out. Thank you, Mayor McEwen. I'll send out a reminder to everyone. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I have just one quick question regarding the incident with wolf. I live here in Jensen Bay, and we had more wolf activity. Certainly, the one wolf and was talking to his friends. So I'm just curious. The incident in the park, was the dog? The rumor was that the dog was on leash. I don't know if you can confirm that or not. I was just curious in terms of the actual incident itself.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't want to get into the specific. The dog was not on a leash originally when the first interaction happened. The pet's owner was able to get it on a leash, and the interaction continued while it was on a leash. So not on a leash and then on a leash, but that did not deter the animals.
Yeah, that's what I was curious as to find out. So thank you for that. And it is important that we have these conversations with our communities. Bears are often our focus, but certainly we have another, and we want to live equitably within there. So thank you for that update.
Yeah.
I'll look to the rest of the committee if there's no other questions. We'll move on. The next, and I didn't see, and I'll look to Heather maybe just in case they're online and I can't see them on my screen. If there's representation from Mahauset, Tloquit, and Heshquit online with us today. No. Thank you, Heather. That then brings us to, I'll move from the chair, that the West Coast Committee received reports A through D. Thank you, Director Siga, for seconding. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carried. I don't believe there's any late business unless something snuck in the last little while. I'll look to Heather to see. I don't know if there's anybody out there with any questions, but I'll look to Heather to see if there is.
I haven't received any questions.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to move from the chair because it is my privilege to adjourn our meeting at 11:32 and thank everyone for coming out here today.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.